The crowd is excited. The Grizzlies just picked with the 3rd overall pick. They select Cameron Boozer from Duke. I'm Richard Denson. Joining with me is NBA draft guru, one of the smartest minds when it comes to his Parker friend, Parker. We've been talking about this for weeks, and now the pick is finally in. Cameron Boozer will be a Memphis Grizzlies.
That's right. I tell you what, goosebumps right now. It's electric out here. You can hear the crowd chanting Boozer right now. Man, this is awesome. I don't know if anyone read my draft guide. I had Cam Boozer as the #1 player in this class. Winning pedigree, dating back to when he was a teenager, playing in prolific prep, playing the EYBL, playing at Duke, playing the FIBA. He's a basketball chameleon. He can do pretty much anything on the floor offensively, and he's a guy that fits perfectly next to Zach Edey, Cedric Howard, and however Zach Kleiman wants to build the next iteration of Grizzlies basketball.
So with this pick, we talked about weeks before, it wasn't necessarily about fit. You said when you have a pick this high, which they haven't picked this high since 2019, that it's all about you build around the player, you take BPA. Obviously the draft kind of fell how we predicted. There was some talk about Darren Peterson maybe being in that spot, but Utah ended up obviously taking him, despite obviously Boozer's connection with his dad being in the front office. So now going from here, the Grizzlies still have another pick with pick 16. What do you think kind of is now the direction now that you will have Boozer in play?
Yeah, obviously you've got to see how the board shakes out. This is a talented class, and there's especially after, everybody's been saying draft starts after 5. Nobody knows what the Clippers will do. They could go Keith Walker, they could go Akov, they could go Michael Brown, they could go Nate Amick. And there's going to be so much variance on the board that you got to see how the board lays out for Memphis. Is there an opportunity to trade up? Does a guy fall into that trade up range? Or else you're in the 16th spot. I think there's a lot of guys that can fit with Cameron Boozer, with Cedric Howard, with Zach Edey, and with what the infrastructure of this team is right now. Obviously, eyes are going to be on point guard because nobody knows what's going to happen with John Morant. And this class is just littered with point guards. So maybe point guard, but also too, like we said, the Grizzlies will go with whoever's best player available on that board. It could be a wing, it could be a forward. They need backup big man help. It could be another big man. So, but I'm excited to see the direction the Grizzlies take tonight.
Once again, we're live here at the FedExForum for the Memphis Grizzlies draft party. The crowd electric. Parker, why do you think everybody kind of came around to Boozer? Because it seems like it was a whirlwind going into, like when we first started this process, everybody was high on Darius Akov, especially like you said, in this post-John Morant world. We don't know what's going to happen to him. We assume that he might be traded. We'll get into that a little bit later. But it seemed like people started to come around on Boozer. I heard obviously some noise. You heard Iman Shumpert. He had preferred Caleb Wilson. But it seems like more and more as we got closer, Boozer was the consensus guy. What do you think, why do you think that is, that this city was kind of able to rally around that when the pick was made, it was a massive amount of cheers? Even when Peterson was taken, it's almost like, okay, Boozer was our guy. Like we didn't want Peterson, but they didn't want Peterson.
I think it's one of those, it's tough because I'm actually surprised because coming into the lottery, there's a lot of buzz in Memphis about Caleb Wilson. The highlights, that dog mentality, the athleticism. But I think what people, they came around with Boozer, obviously for one, when you have a guy that's also in talks for 1 and 2, it kind of eases it a little bit. You're like, oh, Grizzlies got a guy that could be the first pick, the second pick. And then also too, just the aspect of his pedigree, the accomplishments. This is a guy that averaged about 23, 24 points a night, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 40% from 3, 60% on 2s, and just he just plays that competitiveness. He has that, he has that old school power forward game, and I think the Grizzlies fan base gravitates towards that, given who they cheered for. Zach Randolph, Cal Gasol, Mark Gasol, but Cam Boozer, you can run the pick and roll with him as the ball handler or the screener. You can run him off screens. You can have him setting pin downs. You can have him initiating handoffs, coming off handoffs. He can spot up. If you're running an action with Cedric Howard and Zach Edey, or Ty Jerome and Zach Edey, Cameron Boozer can spot up, attack on the weak side, get to the basket. I just think it got to the point where you're picking at 3, and the thing I said from the beginning, I'm not going to get into any sort of debates on social media. I'm not going to get into any sort of debates anywhere. There were no bad outcomes at 3. Whether it was Cameron Boozer, Darren Peterson falling to 3, or getting Caleb Wilson, there was not going to be a bad outcome on the table.
Now, with Boozer slotting in, essentially, we would say he probably will start at the 4.
Yeah.
But throughout this process, Boozer has tried to let it be known that he doesn't want to be pigeonholed as a 4 or even played up as a 5 like his Duke. He shows that, like you said, he can pass and he can score in the wing. So when I look at this Grizzlies team, I see a lot of world where you have Boozer at the 3 and you can kind of run your big lineups, or maybe run Boozer at the 3, Aldama at the 4, Edie at the 5. Just that versatility with what Tommaso Isolo does with kind of spreading it out. What do you kind of see, like, how he really fits into this offense?
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to it right there with the Santi Aldama fit.
Yeah.
Because, like, the Grizzlies, with Taylor Jenkins and Tommaso Isolo, they ran those 3 big lineups, whether Jaren was a fixture, Santi was a fixture, but then you also had Jock Landale with him, Zach Edey with him, Jay Huff with him, Brandon Clark, God rest his soul. They were versatile, but also one thing that I see with Isolo's system is, aside from the 5, there is a lot of positional definition. They run pick and rolls with Cedric Howard, Ty Jerome, John Morant, Cam Spencer, Jalen Wells, Gigi Jackson, Max Prosper. Their offense is predicated finding advantages no matter who's handling the ball, and that makes your offense unpredictable. And I think Cameron Boozer's basketball IQ, his playmaking, the advantages that he can create because of his strength, that's going to open up a lot for the Grizzlies offense. For my readers at Substack Elias, I had my pre-draft written, Cameron Boozer. The Grizzlies have not had this level of playmaking in their front court since Mark Gasol. And so it just opens up a lot on the court. I'm not worried about positional definition because Tommaso Isolo stretches the limits of positions with how he deploys his system.
Now, I remember when we talked about it, you said Zach Kleiman likes Duke guys.
Yeah.
So that has me kind of thinking, like you said, and in light of what just happened with the Giannis trade, which we'll get into that in just a second, that maybe it's a guy like Isaiah Evans who you might see with that second pick, because now the Grizzlies probably don't necessarily have to go point guard, because like you said, Ty Jerome, Scottie Pippen Jr., maybe they lean into the wing. Do you think that coming from a blue blood school like Duke and Zach Kleiman's affinity for what that program produces, that is a chance that we might see maybe a Isaiah Evans who at pick 16?
I mean, they have the 32nd pick as well.
Yeah.
And they can trade up from that into the late second round. I mean, Isaiah Evans, great movement shooter. I worry about the rest of his all-around game, but that's a guy that he can shoot and he knows it too. He uses that superpower as a movement shooter. Obviously, there's that connection with Cameron Boozer, that synergy that they built. He was the second leading scorer at Duke as well. But yes and no, it's just whatever opportunity comes to Zach Kleiman. Because I mean, in the past with it, it's getting Tyus Jones a free agency, getting Grayson Allen in the Mike Conley trade, making a trade to trade Danny Green for Luke Kennard, or getting Marvin Bagley in that salary dump with Marcus Smart. There's so many different avenues, obviously, to go get that Duke guy, but they got it. They got that guy with Cameron Boozer. But I mean, from here on out, it's just like try to identify whether the Grizzlies are going to move up. If they do, who they're going for, and if they say it's 16, who are the guys that could kind of fit the identity that Zach Kleiman's been trying to strive for with this team.
We will continue to watch the NBA draft, which you can catch right now on ABC 24. But obviously, as you are watching the draft, we hope that you're watching here on the stream to see how we react to it. We'll be a little bit more Memphis-centric. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to quickly run down all the latest news in the NBA from the Giannis trade. How does that affect the John Morant market? But we're going to take a quick break. We're live here at the FedExForum. It's a raucous crowd. Stay with us here on the 24th floor.
We lost one child, one son. But I feel like I have 150,000 other kids that are part of my family, because when I go to camp and I see these kids and they have that smile on their face, it's that Adam Petty smile, and I know he's still there with us. So yeah, it does. It makes you feel good. But I'm telling you what, man, it is. I tell people all the time, you walk in the gate and you pat yourself on the back and it's like, oh, look what I'm doing for these kids. And then you hang out with them and it's like, oh my gosh, look what they do for me. Look how they make me feel. Look what they do for me. They're such special kids, such special individuals.
I think it's an Ole Miss football team that's going to be very talented. In my opinion, you have the top quarterback in college football,
Agreed.
you have the top running back in college
Agreed.
football, and you have the top kicker in college football.
Carniero.
Man.
Yeah,
What a name.
unbelievable, and so much talent all around. You'll see that on when the NFL draft comes out, when there's not really any Ole Miss players in the second and third round because they're all back at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a talented team. So Pete Golding is going to have the job of keeping the Ferrari on the road.
Yeah.
What do you think the vibe is so far under Charles Huff? I know he's brought in guys. He's brought Jimbo in. He's brought Charlie Strong in. There's been reports about a kind of Navy SEALs not listening to music. What is your takeaway of all of that?
I think the vibes are good. I think ultimately, and even Charles Huff said this, people are excited about Charles Huff. They're excited about the energy that he brings. They're excited about what he's doing in recruiting. They're excited about the transfers that he brought in. But ultimately, he's 0-0, right? He hasn't played a game yet. And so it's good to have excitement around the program. It does matter because you're trying to drive fan interest. You're trying to get people excited. You're trying to get national attention. You want to put yourself on the radar. But at the same time, you get to the season and none of that really matters. And so, yes, it's good right now. And I feel like people are really excited about not only this team, but kind of the direction of the program. But then you get to week 0 when they play UNLV, and then all that stuff kind of goes out the window, and it's just about winning football games.
Trinidad Chambliss getting his case approved back in February and March and all of that, that was the main key. That's what made this team a playoff team, because if Trinidad Chambliss hadn't made it back for Ole Miss, Deuce Knight was going to be a good quarterback, but now you're talking about this Ole Miss team being a 20 to 25 level team. With Trinidad Chambliss, this is a national championship contender. And as long as you keep the Ferrari on the road and let Kejuan Lacey do what he does, and with the defense coming back that's supposed to be really good, I think this team is going to be better than 2025.
Welcome back to the Memphis Grizzlies NBA Draft Watch Along here on ABC 24 Plus. We're hoping that you're also watching the NBA Draft on ABC 24. We're live here at the FedExForum, where it's the Grizzlies Watch Along. It was a celebration with the number 3 pick. Once again, Cameron Boozer will be a Memphis Grizzly. But now that that's kind of settled, we still have more Grizzlies picks. And so, first of all, I want to kind of apologize. We wanted to start exactly at 7, but it was construction going on in the garage, and it just seems apropos because this team is essentially under construction.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. But no, now we wait, I guess.
Yeah.
Obviously, Clippers, as we were off air, they drafted Keaton Walker. I really like Keaton Walker.
Yeah.
I like his fit with Darius Garland. I'm high on his upside, all that. But it's going to be a fun night. I'm sure we're about to see a lot of surprises. I mean, fingers crossed for C. I hope so. I hope it's not just chalk. Yeah. But yeah, no, excited how the rest of the night's going to go.
Once again, joining me is NBA Draft Guru, Substackolitis, Parker Fleming, one of the smartest draft minds I know, especially when it comes to Memphis Grizzlies. I said it earlier on the 24th floor. I said it on a previous episode. This guy is almost like Houdini. He's like Magic Parker when it comes to predictions. He was high on Cedric Howard last year, and that ended up being the pick. Parker, I talked about this. We've had draft analysts on the show. We had my friend Rich on. We've had you on. And I asked Rich this. I got to ask you, what gets you so fascinated about the draft that you're just so deep into it?
It's one of those things that there's so many outcomes on the table. I love all the possibilities. I love being able to think about, when these players are coming into the league. So it's not just outcomes of who can be on your team, it's the outcomes of where their careers can go. Obviously, there's some players that reach highs you never expect. There's players that sometimes they go down to a level that you don't expect as well. But just the idea of swirling and trying to contextualialize, they could be this player in this situation. I would love them in this situation. I think they could be this because they have this skill, this skill, this skill. If they develop this, then they become that. And then also too, it's just so cool because it's a life-changing opportunity for these guys. And you know, that it's very cool to see them prepare for that moment, prepare for a life-changing moment. And, you know, I was that kid in message boards. I was 10, 11, 12 years old. I mean, I was at message boards, probably arguing with some older fans about, in 2007 they should pick Al Horford, or I was the kid beating the drum for Ricky Rubio, even though they had Mike Conley in 2009. I was talking about the idea in 2008 of pairing Michael Beasley and Rudy Gay. Like, I've always loved this part. It's super cool. Also, easier than covering the NFL draft that has like 7 rounds, or covering the MLB draft that goes on for like 3 weeks. But I just love it. I love it, and for me, it's it's just time to try to use my brain and try to figure out different levels of outcomes, where guys can hit, but also trying to figure out who are these teams thinking they could draft. One of the exercises I try to do this year as an introduction to something I hope to do going forward is okay, here's who I may pick, or where the consensus may go, but based on how this GM is operated, who may they pick off of their operations? I could go on and on about why I love the draft process, and just seeing, third year doing the draft guide, it's really cool to see how my process is growing, but also how the project's evolved, and I just continue to do the same thing.
I think doing NBA mock drafts is probably one of the funnest exercises. You see it in football, you see it in basketball. We always have these wild mock drafts. Now with obviously Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, people post it, and then it always gets a lot of engagement. Sometimes you'll see some wild takes. Like, I think I saw a mock draft that had Jaden Quaintonance as a top 5 pick. Now obviously that didn't happen, as Keaton Wagler went 5, but it leads me to think that young man Jaden Quaintonance is a guy who we could potentially see the Grizzlies select with a later pick. And so let's kind of bring this back. But first, before we get into the Grizzlies' second pick, I feel like we've been burying the lead. There was something big that happened in the NBA recently. Oh, one of my AirPods fell out. Thank you. Something big that happened recently in the NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo finally being traded to the Miami Heat. Now you might think, well, what does that have to do with Memphis? Why should we care?
Several layers.
That's because Ja Morant was allegedly a target for the Miami Heat if they did not get Giannis. Now Giannis is a member of the Heat. They won't have money to pay Ja Morant. I was arguing with my barber earlier today saying, no, Ja is not going to Miami. And so now, Parker, we've seen reports coming out after this trade that now teams aren't going to pivot to Ja Morant like the Heat were. Allegedly, there's been reports that Minnesota is out on him, Sacramento is out on him, Phoenix is out on him. So now we got to say, Parker, what happens with Ja Morant going forward?
And all right, real quick before I get to the Ja Morant aspect, what was your reaction to the Giannis notification? Because I was actually asleep. I woke up the next morning. My reaction was so underwhelming for a all-time great that got traded. I was just like,
really?
It happened. Yay.
Oh, because it's finally.
Like, it's been dragged on for like, what, a year and a half, 2 years? Like, but no, like, and then even thinking with the Giannis trade, I'm thinking of, obviously, Miami, I'm excited to see how they build their team, but also I'm excited for Taylor Jenkins, former Grizzlies coach. Two lottery picks, the 10th and 13th picks. Like, even the young guys, Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware, Kasparis Jonas, you have those picks. I don't know what the future holds for Tyler Hero. They reportedly have. There's been discussions that they're fine keeping him, but they shop him. But still, there's gonna be a lot of talent and fusion in Milwaukee, where I think they could be a surprise team next year. But with the job news, there's Minnesota, because Minnesota just traded Julius Randle in a salary dump. So they generated a $33 million traded player exception. Ja's salary does not fit into that, but also that takes them out as a contender for Ja Morant, because Randle would have been the salary match for them. And also, too, now it leads them to say, okay, the only means of salary matching with Ja Morant are Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels. They're not trading those guys. For Ja Morant, at least. Sacramento, they're on the clock here. Darius Acuff is on the board still.
A guy who the Grizzlies fans wanted at one time.
And they've been linked to the Sacramento Kings. Have been linked to Darius Acuff because of his Scott Perry, the GM's connection to Acup's father. New Orleans, there's reports that they're not in the mix. Again, we'll see. There could be posturing. Who knows? That's also, and then also Miami. They don't. The means to get him has gotten more complicated because of this trade. But to me, I'm looking at the landscape, and I just think it's going to come down to a surprise team.
So why do you think that's the case? Because I want to go on the record. I have not ever really been on board with trading Ja Morant. I said if it was going to happen, it was going to be in the offseason because you could get more for him. Obviously, the playoffs are coming on. Teams know now what they need. And that's why we're saying maybe a Minnesota, because they realize that they need a point guard. Because obviously Mike Conley can't do it anymore. They tried to run Ant at point guard, didn't really work. Tried to run TJ Shannon as point forward, didn't really work. DiVincenzo, they had him running point guard until he tore his Achilles. I had Minnesota as a spot, but to me, these teams that are, and then there was a time I heard about Detroit. DeMichael Cole tried to talk me into Brooklyn as being the spot for him, but I just didn't see it with the point guards they got over there.
And they just drafted Michael Brown Jr.
Exactly. So I've never believed in trading Ja Morant just for the sake of trading him. I don't want it to be a salary dump, especially when you talk about a player that has meant so much to this city. And it's just more of like, can he get on the same page with the coaching staff? I think there is a world where they can mend that bridge together. But kind of what is your take on all of that? Because I don't want to see, me personally, I don't want to see a salary dump. I feel like if you are going to trade him, you got to get something. That's why Kleiman didn't trade him at the deadline, because to be honest, he could have salary dumped him. So, but then I like what DeMichael kind of said. The biggest thing with Ja Morant, and this is what I tell people, is your best ability is your availability. Ja Morant is not available a lot. And so when you're paying a guy more than $40 million and he's hardly playing, then that's kind of why you get into like he's a negative asset. And it seems just out of the blue he's a negative asset again, and it just seems like the highs and lows, Parker, because trade deadline his value was all the way down here. Then going up into the Giannis trade, it seems like his stock was rising. Then Trae Young gets paid and Giannis gets traded. The next thing you know, you say his market is dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, at this point, what are we doing? Just see what he does with Boozer and just see like, hey man, it's 2 years. Like, what do you think?
And look, I will just, like, you just never know. This is a front office who, they traded Desmond Bane to Orlando, no intel. Traded Jaren Jackson to Utah, no intel. A lot of the moves that end up, a lot of the moves that end up going down are the ones that are made in silence. So maybe there is a surprise team, maybe there is a deal, who knows? But yeah, it's the stock stuff is perplexing because look, yes, the best availability is the best. The best ability is availability. He has not played a total of 82 games over this past 3 years. He's played 79 games. And like you said, when that's accounting for $40 million on your salary cap sheet, that causes hesitation. There could be worries about the decline in his game. Yes, the at-rim numbers have gone down. The shooting hasn't quite transpired. But what I've seen from Ja Morant, actually, and what I have kind of been beating the drum for a year, is I wanted him to tap into going back to being that pass-first point guard that he talked about pre-draft. He put together his best assist numbers on a per-minute basis the past 2 years. Any slow system, in the Taylor Jenkins system, plus Noah LaRoche, he really kind of found the gear as a playmaker where you only had to count on one hand. You can only count on one hand how many better passers and playmakers there were than Ja Morant. And again, also it's 2 years, for a team trying to trade him. If it doesn't work, he's an expiring contract next year. We know how much easier money is able to trade when there is that expiring contract. So, look, and I'm not going to speculate on, is he going to get traded? Is he next year, whatever, or is he going to be on the team next year? Because look, I think there are more layers that exist when it talks about trading a player of Morant's magnitude. Not just, the star profile, what he's meant to your organization over these past 7 years. I think there's just more layers to it that it might make sense for both parties to just move on and start fresh.
I get you, but it's just like this city really loves John Morant. Despite what, like, they have his back, they've been with him through thick and thin. Yes, a little agitation over some of the annex, but to me, he hasn't really done anything outside of the little thing with Isolo, and that happens. So I think that's why you see this city, when I talk to people, they more so take Ja's side than Tommaso's side. That's neither here nor there. To me, now with Boozer being the pick, I see a world where both can thrive. And if anything, if Boozer is supposed to be the guy, because it seems like we're like kind of trying to force this new next era of the Grizzlies with Cedric Coward and Edey and now Boozer, that they're supposed to be the big three. It doesn't hurt having a veteran from the old guard to kind of usher that in. To me, it could be a revitalization project for Ja. And I like you said, if Ja can get back to that pass first guard and kind of like evolve his game, because he reminds me a lot of Derrick Rose, with his ability to attack the hoop and everything. But when the shot's not falling, because he is a skilled passer, there is a ways where he can still impact the game. And then, as we know, he will still turn those call 12 moments, like when he dropped 40 against the Sixers. So what do you think, could you potentially see like an ecosystem where Ja and Boozer thrive?
I'm going to be honest, I've never thought of it. I just haven't thought of it because, these rumors have been out there since January.
Yeah.
And honestly, you can even go back to when the first public not conversation, because there wasn't a public conversation, but like when there was that first public incident with Morant and Isolo, trade rumors started to roll in a little bit. Like, okay, could it be Miami? Could it be Minnesota? Could it be New Orleans? Could it be Sacramento? And sort of snowballing, died down a little bit, and it picked back up when Sean Sharania reported the Grizzlies were willing to entertain offers for John Morant. I haven't thought about the ecosystem, but all I will say is it requires buy-in from all parties to make sure that it works. Because, look, we'll just see. We don't know. Look, we could be reporting this, and our phones could be buzzing, and it could be the trade.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know what's going to happen. It's NBA draft night. Giannis just got traded, and Sean Sharania reported that Jaylen Brown and Trey Murphy are two players that could potentially be on the move tonight as well. So you never know.
Yeah. I want to put a pin in that, Parker, because as you can tell, it's getting pretty loud here. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the future of the Jaylen Brown and the Trey Murphy and other who could be next on trading. And if the Grizzlies, we talk so much about them trading up, that they try to get in on some of those guys. We'll talk about it. We're live here at the FedExForum for the NBA draft party that you can catch right now on ABC 24. We'll be back after this.
Trinidad Chambliss getting his case approved back in February and March and all of that, that was the main key. That's what made this team a playoff team, because if Trinidad Chambliss hadn't made it back for Ole Miss, Deuce Knight was going to be a good quarterback, but now you're talking about this Ole Miss team being a 20 to 25 level team. With Trinidad Chambliss, this is a national championship contender. And as long as you keep the Ferrari on the road, let Kewan Lacey do what he does, and with the defense coming back that's supposed to be really good, I think this team is going to be better than 2025.
I think the NBA is driven by really good wings. If you have a really good wing player, you have a higher ceiling to win it all compared to if you have a guard. Because think about it, for the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, they've been in the conference finals 2 years in a row. Might be 3 if they get past San Antonio. Yeah. And then, you obviously have Tatum and Brown. The Celtics won a championship. We know with the Durant, even though Steph Curry was the face of the Warriors team, once they got Durant was the best player of the team. You see Kawhi Leonard with the Spurs and the Raptors, and LeBron, obviously. Yeah. Wings really drive the NBA.
Sure.
And I think AJ DeBanza has the play where if you take a guy like him and he ends up reaching what he's supposed to be, you're standing at the top for a long time.
Obviously, the goal is to win, and if I don't do that, there'll be another head coach here doing your show. I get that, but with the understanding of not setting expectations too high, but also understanding that we are standing on fertile ground. There's a lot of resources here. There's a lot of support here. So we should expect victory. Yeah. Now, the reality of it is it comes down to execution, but we want to make sure that when the fans watch us play, they say that team played extremely hard. Yeah. They were bought in.
See the crowd here at the FedExForum. It is the 2026 NBA Draft Party. The NBA Draft is streaming right now on ABC 24. We hope that you're watching, but you're also tuning in to us because it's Memphis-centric. Richard Denson here. Joining with me is Parker Fleming, Substackalitis, NBA Draft Guru. We're just kind of reacting, but now my team.
Your team. So we got to watch this.
Atlanta Hawks. Let's see who they get.
Oh, let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
The Hawks have taken Kingston Flemings. I'm happy about that. Now, going into it, I kind of want Ade Mara. That was kind of my guy.
Yeah.
But Kingston Flemings at one time was as high as the 4th player on the draft board. I saw when he was really going on that run with Houston. Before we get back into the Grizzlies, just kind of, how did you kind of rank these next tier of guards? Because it seems like with this draft, it was first tier, second tier, third tier. Like the first tier obviously being AJ, Darren, Cam, Caleb. But then that second tier, Michael, who jumped into it. You had Kingston, who just got taken by Atlanta, Darius Acuff, Keegan Vogler. It seemed when we were in college, like the college season, that Kingston was the next guy. But now he goes at 8 to Atlanta. Do you kind of agree with how the board kind of fell?
I had Vogler at 1. He was aside from Darren Peterson, I thought he was the second best guard in the class.
Wow.
I actually thought him and Caleb Wilson were on the same tier. I had AJ Darren, Cameron Boozer, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBassa, and then Caleb Wilson, Keaton Vogler. I think Keaton Vogler is that guy because of the combination of size, shooting, playmaking, processing, and I just think when he fills out his frame, it's going to open up more outcomes for him as a multifaceted guard. I actually have Kingston Flemings as the second best guard in this class, or the third best guard behind Peterson and Vogler. Just the combination, like his speed, how he thinks the game as well, high level passer, able to just make insane reads even while really pushing on the gas as a driver. The at-rim finishing numbers are pretty low, but he played in a paint that was very crowded. Nobody was guarding JoJo Tugler and Chris Stack outside of 10 feet, and he still had one of the biggest influences on the rim of any guard in the country. And also, Kelvin Sampson trusted a freshman with the keys. Just with his improvements that he's made as a shooter over the past 18 months, the shooting, the speed, the athleticism, the defensive tenacity, I just think he's going to be good. He's going to be great. Darius Acuff, I love Acuff.
Yeah,
his scoring ability is amazing. He honestly reminds you of those 2000s guards, whether it's Stephon Marbury, Allen Iverson. He has that modern, the Damian Lillard, where he can kind of move around off the ball. He shot 49% on catch and shoot threes. He's a fantastic passer. The thing with him, as is the thing with small guards, how much will the defense hurt his team going forward? That's something that the Kings will now have to try to figure out, is how do you build a winner around Darius Acuff if the defense is what it is? And then I have Michael Brown a little lower, but again, that's an awesome upside swing for a Brooklyn Nets team where, look, when you're talking about the biggest losers of the lottery in the past 2 years, the Brooklyn Nets, they tore it down in the 2024 offseason, trading Mikal Bridges, getting their picks back so that they can open up the opportunity to go get Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, Cam Boozer, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBassa, Caleb Wilson, and they fall to 6. But guess what? Michael Brown, look, there's wide band of outcomes for Michael Brown, but there's a world where he hits and he becomes a star. I like it. That's a good group of guards. So it's not the order I exactly have them, just with Flemings and Michael flipped. But look, I like the fit for all the teams here.
So the thing with Michael Brown is interesting to me because this was a guy who I was high on, but then once he started getting injured, I could kind of see his stock fall. And then I guess this is why the combine and measurements are important in interviews, that people saw the raw tape and saw that there was still something with this guy. So to see his rise, because it was times where I saw him as low as 11 to maybe Golden State, and for him to end up being taken over Kingston, I didn't see that coming. Now going back to Keaton Vogler, a guy to me who I see a comparison is a guy Memphis fans will know quite well because he coaches inside this building. And that's Penny Hardaway.
Okay.
So
I love that comp. Never thought of that.
So Keaton, he's a big guard.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with how he didn't run away from the moment in the Final Four, helping Illinois get to that stage, and he played his butt off. Came up short. He was a guy who a lot of Grizzlies fans who I talked to, like, if there was a world where they could kind of get him, that there were some people who had rather had him than Darren Peterson. And maybe it's because of Peterson's cramp and stuff. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that because obviously Peterson's over Utah. It's a moot point. But getting to your Brooklyn take, now adding a Michael Brown on top of the guards that they have with Jegor Denham, Nolan Traore, Powell. That is why, like, when DeMichael in our latest episode was talking about Brooklyn being a Ja Morant spot, I just didn't see it. Now, I know they have the cap space, and obviously we can see cap space teams like paying guys. Look at what Washington just gave Trae Young and what Brooklyn is probably going to give Julius Randle. Morris Johnson just got taken by the Mavs.
Hey, go Big Blue.
Yeah, so I don't know what you thought. Did you ever kind of believe that Ja Morant could have been like, that Brooklyn was a spot for him?
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Shout out to Kaki, just kind of giving us a little update on the food here because we are getting a little hungry. But yeah, like, did you ever see Brooklyn as maybe a spot for Ja Morant? Like, DeMichael tried to talk me into it. I just wasn't really buying it.
There's two things I could see with it. For one, look, they made a move for Julius Randle. Who would have thought they would make a move for Julius Randle?
Bring him back to New York.
They owe a pick swap to the Houston Rockets next year, where Houston, so if Brooklyn gets the #1 pick and wins the lottery, that goes to Houston, and they get Houston's pick. So, like, they could strive to try to be competitive to kind of cut the sting a little bit, ease the sting of that pick swap to where, hey, look, if we could just go take a swing on Ja Morant, and it may not work, but look, we may end up just getting the 14th pick instead of giving up the #1 pick, and that's just me a lot easier of a pill to swallow.
Yeah, and so now here we are. We just picked number 9, just came in with the Mavs. They also were big in the news this week, hiring Dusty May.
Yeah.
Did you kind of see that coming?
No.
Like, Dusty May, this was a guy who I was thinking penciling in for maybe he would jump up and go to Kansas if Bill Self actually retired. And, who knows whether it was any smoke to Bill Self retiring. Maybe he was, and then he changed his mind. Maybe he never was. But Dusty May, born from national champion to now coaching in the Mavs, I don't know what's going on at the University of Michigan that now it seems you win the national title and then you're just going to leave. But Dusty May now about to be the coach, now is the head coach of the Mavs, and he's taking one of his guys, Morris Johnson, which I don't know about you, but this was a guy that a lot of Grizzlies fans were kind of wanting to trade up to get, and now he's off the board.
Yeah, Morris Johnson was the guy I actually picked for the Grizzlies in the Grind City Media mock draft. But yeah, with Dusty May, he's going to coach Cooper Flagg, going to coach Kyrie Irving, and now he's going to get to coach Morris Johnson, his former player that helped him win a national championship this past year.
Yeah, and right next to us, I kind of was there trying to get our attention, is Zach Randolph. He's over onto the right side. Obviously, it's very dark in here besides what you have right here. So I don't know if we can necessarily pan over to him. Hopefully we can get a chance to have a word with him later. We will have a word with Zach Kleiman, not necessarily on this show, but we will hear from Zach Kleiman before the end of the night. We will obviously bring you what he says. We'll ask him about the latest on the Ja Morant saga. We will ask him about his mindset on taking Boozer. We will keep doing this thing until the Grizzlies pick second. We're hoping that they can trade up. But, hey, me and Connor, we can talk hoops forever. If you're joining us watching, we definitely appreciate you. Obviously, watch the NBA Draft on ABC 24. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're live here at the FedExForum for the Grizzlies Draft Party. Stay here on the 24th floor. what do you think people don't realize about this league?
A lot of people still don't know it's here. We're going into our 12th season, so we've been doing this 7 years now. And a lot of people still don't know that it is here in Memphis and come out and watch the games.
And the home base is here in Memphis. Like everything originated here in the 901. It's not like you was somewhere else and then you came and expanded to Memphis. Everything started in the 901.
Everything was here. 2019 is when we started.
So who's in the league? Like because that would kind of be the question, right? Like people go watch people they know, people they're familiar with, people maybe they saw in high school or college.
Well, the ones that started with me, I retired them last year. Ashley Shields was probably the most notable name. She played in the WNBA, WNBA champion. But we had a lot of players that started with us our first season that were high talent WNBA Division I players. We put them in our first ever Hall of Fame last year.
Oh, that's cool.
I feel like my peers and everybody from a mass majority of people didn't believe that it was a world outside of Horn Lake, Mississippi, outside of Tunica, Mississippi, that they can do whatever they want and their wildest dream can come true. So that's the reason I try my best day in and day out to inspire the kids that they can do whatever, the next generation, that they can do whatever, and not even just the next generation, but anybody, the grown people too, they can do whatever. It's not too late. It's just as long as you put in the work, you got the right mindset with it. Yeah.
How's it been talking to some of the kids and everything? It seems like we got a good number. We got like 200 kids behind us and everything. So how's it been?
It's always fun talking to the kids. If I get through to one of them, then I got through to another.
The stuff with Darren Peterson, even before his Kansas days, he was an electrifying high school player, just capable of getting to his spots.
One of the greatest to ever don a Memphis Grizzlies jersey is taking it in with the fans. I'm talking about number 50, Zach Randolph. He's here live at the NBA draft party here at the FedExForum, taking pictures. His jersey is in the stands, Raptors in the stands. I know he's excited about the guy the Grizzlies got. Once again, the Grizzlies taking Cam Boozer with the number 3 pick. Hopefully Boozer is the next straight power forward, and he can hopefully have his name in the Raptors with Mr. Randolph here. My colleague Parker had to step away for a minute and get in on the Boozer call. We're going to rejoin with him in just a minute. But as Mr. Randolph passes, what's up, Zach? What's up? Good. Yes, sir. Good to see you. But yeah, as we said, the Grizzlies here. We're here at the draft party. The Grizzlies now, we're doing an NBA draft watch along. We're at pick number 10 with the Bucks. And obviously the Bucks have made some big news lately in the NBA world, traded Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Miami Heat. So now the Bucks will have 2 picks in this draft, their own pick, the 10th pick, and the 13th pick from the Heat. Now, obviously, this sets a big whirlwind in the NBA world. You're talking about a top 5 NBA player when healthy, going to the East, which the East is not necessarily as strong as the West, even though the Knicks have just won the NBA championship. Hold on, let's see who the Bucks got. Braden Burries taken by the Milwaukee Bucks. Braden Burries, the guard from Arizona. He was a guy who, once again, I heard Grizzlies fans wanting to kind of trade up and get him, but now he will be ushering part of that new era. It's interesting to kind of see what Milwaukee would do now, bringing in a guy like Tyler Hero with this homecoming, bringing Casper, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but bringing in Cass, bringing in Khalil Ware, now taking Braden Burries with one of these draft picks. I'm interested to see what they do at 13. Milwaukee obviously has its Memphis ties with former head coach Taylor Jenkins now running the ship. A lot of Grizzlies fans miss him here. We're not necessarily going to get into that. But the thing, obviously, that makes the Giannis news even more interesting if you're a Memphis fan is Ja Morant going to be the next domino to fall? Because the Miami Heat were a team that was in on Ja. And I'm going to ask Parker kind of his take on this aspect. I remember on this show on the 24th floor that when there was Ja Morant to Miami talks, Tyler Hero was in the hypothetical package. And now Tyler Hero's traded for Giannis. So Tyler Hero was in Giannis talks. how could he have ever been in Ja talks? Just trying to kind of keep it a buck. And so now, Ja Morant, you would think he's the next domino to fall, but apparently he doesn't have a market. Now, like I said, I've never really been on the trade Ja wave. I would like to see how he kind of thrives with this group. We will hear from Zach Kleiman later tonight about kind of the future on that front. The Grizzlies still have another pick in this draft. There have been talks about trading up. Zach Kleiman has never traded down. We're going to keep doing this show all the way until the Grizzlies' second pick at 16, just finishing pick 10, so we're about 5 picks away. I'm intrigued to kind of see how the board falls. You still got, maybe the Grizzlies go BPA. Some guys who are still on the board. You have Karim Lopez that comes to mind as a guy. You got LeBaron Filan from Alabama. If you watch, if you're an Alabama fan, because obviously I know this area is SEC territory, you may be kind of familiar with him. There's a guy who Memphis fans, if you're a Tigers fan, you'll know about Yaxel Landenberg because he used to cause problems for Memphis when he was at UAB, but then he transferred to Michigan. It's a big part of why that team won the national championship. There was a world where I could have saw Yaxel go to Dallas with Dusty May now being the head coach there. But, he's still on the board. We've asked him, us media, we have asked him about the chance of playing in Memphis. He's obviously said the right things and saying that he wouldn't be, mad to play in Memphis despite the rivalry. I mean, the guy just wants to get drafted, but the guy's also 24 years old, so, get a job. Well, he's going to have a job in the NBA. Anyway, we're watching along here at the NBA draft watch party here at the FedExForum. It was loud. It seems like we wasn't on purposely trying to come on right when the pick was announced. Like I said, we were kind of a little bit delayed because of the construction that was going on in the media garage, and we had to go all the way around. If you normally go in the FedExForum through the Gossett garage. I had to go all the way around because of construction. And then, like I said, it's kind of apropos because this franchise is essentially under construction as they are moving on from the previous era of Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr., could be Ja Morant. I always say could be. We will see what happens with that. Now you have the next guys, that young core, the guys Cedric Coward, Zach Edey, you have Cam Spencer, G.G. Jackson. Those are guys that you can usher in as the new era. And now you add Cam Boozer to that group. Being picked at the number 3 spot, there is obviously maybe an expectation that he will emerge as the leader of that group, especially him coming in with a chip on his shoulder. We were listening into the lead up to this draft. Cam Boozer believed that he was the best player in this draft and kind of took offense that he wasn't getting the proper respects. And I think that's the interesting thing. We talked about it with my friend Rich when we had him on the show a few weeks ago. These guys aren't always able to show everything that they can do in college because they have to play within the system. And for Cam Boozer, when you're playing at Duke, you're surrounded by some of the best players in college. He's playing with Patrick Ngongba. He's playing with Isaiah Evans, a guy who may hear his name called in this round by the Memphis Grizzlies with the second pick. He's playing with his brother. And so he can't fully, even though he was the leader and the head of the table at Duke, he wasn't able to fully show his game. When you're picked to kind of be the guy with that spot, the number 3 spot, I like to think that Isolo is going to kind of let him have free realm to kind of do what he does. But you still got to still play within the team, and that has to translate to wins. Cedric Coward, my colleague Parker was really high on. He was high on Cedric Coward well before the draft last year. And it's now kind of cool that Cedric, had a chance to go to Duke. He was going to play for Duke until last minute declare for the draft last year and obviously fall into the Memphis Grizzlies. And now it seems like destiny arrives with him and Cam Boozer are actually going to play together in Memphis. And I want to know you all's kind of thoughts. If you want to chime in either way on social media or in the comment section, or if you're watching us on YouTube, is what do you think kind of the ceiling is for this team with Cedric Coward and Zach Edey and Boozer winning? Because when you look at the way the NBA is going. Now, yes, the New York Knicks are more of that veteran team, and those guys were together, but you still kind of see, for the most part, the league is run by young teams like OKC, who was in the gutter for a while, and then out of the blue just came out like a phoenix with SGA and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. Look at the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper. The Grizzlies, Zach Kleiman has a good draft history. He knows how to draft really well. That's what I always tell people. You may not be happy about his front office decisions and his extensions and trading stuff, but the man knows how to draft. And seeing that he was able to find Cam Spencer in the second round, and how Cam Spencer showed that he really could be a guy going forward, even a guy that you might even be comfortable with operating as your starting point guard, or maybe even your starting two guard, finding Jalen Wells. This guy knows how to scout talent. And so we hear this a lot. It started with the Philadelphia 76ers, obviously, about trusting the process. We even hear it, in our work forward field about trusting the process. I would probably tell Grizzlies fans to trust the process with Kleiman, to just kind of see it through. We don't know how this expansion with Las Vegas and Seattle being on the way, how that could impact Memphis. Maybe Memphis moves to the Eastern Conference, and that could make their path a little bit easier. But, Zach Kleiman said that he doesn't expect this to be a long rebuild. And I know Grizzlies don't want to be necessarily picking in this spot again. Now it's kind of going to be hard because Golden State is picking right now. Let's see who they're going to take. There we go, Yaxel Lindenberg. I was just talking about him. Selected by the Golden State Warriors. He'll throw in Steph Curry and Draymond Green on the game. But yeah, getting back to kind of what I was saying. Obviously, the Grizzlies have another first-round pick from Utah in the Jaren Jackson trade. They were hoping that pick would parlay into Tony Allen is behind us. They were hoping that pick would kind of parlay into maybe a top 5 pick. With the new tanking policies, it's looking like it's not necessarily going to happen where it could be a top 3 pick. But hey, you still add talent, add it to the pick and just kind of see where it lands. We're going to take a quick break because Parker is coming back. We're in him mic'd up. Tony Allen is speaking. I kind of want to listen to what he's got to say. Once again, we're live here at the FedExForum for the NBA draft party. We're here on the 24th floor. We'll be back after this.
We lost one child in that, one son. But I feel like I have 150,000 other kids that are part of my family, because when I go to camp and I see these kids and they have that smile on their face, it's that Adam Petty smile, and I know he's still there with us. So yeah, it does. It makes you feel good. But I'm telling you what, man, it is. I tell people all the time, you walk in the gate and you pat yourself on the back and it's like, oh, look what I'm doing for these kids. And then you hang out with them and it's like, oh my gosh, look what they do for me. Look how they make me feel. Look what they do for me. They're such special kids, such special individuals.
I think it's an Ole Miss football team that's going to be very talented. In my opinion, you have the top quarterback in college football, you have the top running back in college football, and you have the top kicker in college football.
Carniero.
Yeah,
what a name.
Unbelievable, and so much talent all around. You'll see that when the NFL draft comes out, when there's not really any Ole Miss players in the second and third round, because they're all back at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a talented team. So Pete Golding is going to have the job of keeping the Ferrari on the road.
Yeah.
What do you think the vibe is so far under Charles Huff? I know he's brought in guys. He's brought Jimbo in. He's brought Charlie Strong in. There's been reports about a kind of Navy SEALs not listening to music. What is your takeaway of all of that?
I think the vibes are good. I think ultimately, and even Charles Huff said this, people are excited about Charles Huff. They're excited about the energy that he brings. They're excited about what he's doing in recruiting. They're excited about the transfers that he brought in. But ultimately, he's 0-0, right? He hasn't played a game yet. And so it's good to have excitement around the program. It does matter because you're trying to drive fan interest. You're trying to get people excited. You're trying to get national attention. You want to put yourself on the radar. But at the same time, you get to the season and none of that really matters. And so, yes, it's good right now. And I feel like people are really excited about not only this team, but kind of the direction of the program. But then you get to week 0.
Welcome back to the FedExForum. We're live here for the NBA Draft Watch Party. Talking behind us is another Grizzlies legend, Tony Allen. You missed it. Zach Randolph came in my shot and dapped me up.
Oh, man. Dang, I missed the GOAT.
Parker Fleming, NBA Draft Guru, joined us. Always check out his great work on Substack. I'm telling you, I mean, we have a lot of great publications here in this city. We have the Daily Memphian, we have the Commercial Appeal, but a dark horse, underrated, is this guy on Substack. You'll learn something every time you read his work. Parker, you had to step away because Cameron Boozer got on the call to kind of say his first words of being a Memphis Grizzly. Can you kind of share what you heard?
Yeah, just one of those things. Excited to be here. Excited to be with this young core that has Zach Edey, such a coward. He talked about those two guys specifically with Zach Edey. Now, he's never played with somebody as tall as Zach Edey before, but also talked about how they will be one of the best rebounding duos day one in the league. Talked about the terrific season from Cedric Howard. We had to hear from Cedric Howard earlier this week that Cedric Howard is a player correspondent for the NBA at the NBA Draft. So he's been going around asking different questions to incoming prospects, one of them being Cam Boozer. Yeah, excited to be here, believes he's a versatile piece that can help this team win. He also said too, he said they're going to surprise people next year with how good and competitive they are.
We got to make sure we don't lose our voice, Parker. It's getting a little bit rowdy and noisy here, which is what we like. They're doing the t-shirt toss. Like I said, hopefully you guys can come out to this draft party. We're not even halfway through the draft, to be honest. So, I mean, we're going to keep going until the Grizzlies' second pick. But, hey, I mean, you can come out here, get a free preseason ticket, get in on the fun. You can see Tony Allen, he's dapping folks up. Zach Randolph, you can see Grizzlies legends, have fun. Some of our media colleagues out here doing their own thing. Just a fun time. Parker, I talked about this when I had Carly Lyons on the show last week, talking about like the community outreach that the Grizzlies are doing. Why do you, I mean, obviously you've been here for a long time and you're from the Mid-South. What do you think is just so cool for a team to put something together like this, to stay engaged, especially in a time where maybe some Grizzlies fans are on the fence about whether they really want to support the team going forward in light of Ja and Jaren and Desmond and just kind of ushering out the era? What do you think something like this kind of really so cool for the city?
It's rejuvenating because look, last year when they ended the season, Jaren Jackson Jr. was traded. John Morant, the trade rumors are out there. Zach Edey into the season, hurt, out for the year, another ankle surgery. But also too, you come in on any given night and you're like, oh wait, who's this guy playing? Because they're shuffling there because their roster had gotten just obliterated with injuries. It's rejuvenating because look, picking third, no matter who it would have been, was just a signaling, hey, light at the end of the tunnel. There's hope. Hey, I'm not gonna say reward, but guess what? Was the payoff from having to sit through and kind of go through the season that the Grizzlies did last year. Only 25 wins last year. Guys in and out of the lineup. Guess what the reward is? The payoff is. It's Cameron Boozer. Adding Cameron Boozer to a core that has Cedric Howard, Zach Edey, that has veterans like Ty Jerome, Santi Aldama, and whatever happens with John Morant. Has other young guys like Cam Spencer, Walter Clayton Jr., G.G. Jackson, Jalen Wells. It's just nice to get excited about it. There's the t-shirt toss. There's, Zach Randolph's here. Tony Allen's here. They got all this entertainment. They go all out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that people in attendance got a free ticket to a Grizzlies game this season, right? Like, it's just rejuvenating, and it's a token of appreciation for the fans that have stuck through thin and thin to be there for this team through struggles. Because guess what? Brighter days are ahead, and there are brighter days ahead because they got Cam Boozer at 3.
I think what we often are focused on, well, maybe not us, but kind of the young guys, as another pick is in, Mara. That was kind of the guy that was kind of the guy I wanted my Hawks to go with. But, I'm rocking with Kingston Flemings. We'll be all right, but that's another guy who I could see him giving problems to the Grizzlies. Because now you're talking about Mara being in that front court with Chet. If they move on from Hartenstein, now the Thunder can still go with another double big lineup that's even younger. Something to think about. Boozer and Edey, that front court might have their hands full.
Yeah, they might have their hands full, but they also
Tony, what up?
It also might work.
Y'all live, shout out
Yes,
ABC,
sir.
man. We got the number 3 pick, baby. We did it.
Tony, out the mud, Tony, out.
Oh man. Yeah, AB shows the show to be. That's how you get TA on the call, you got Devo on the call. ABC is the show to be.
The 24th floor is the place to be. Because continue what you were saying.
Yeah. Thunder. We're talking about the Thunder.
Yeah,
getting
Daymar.
Yeah, and look, even if they keep Hartenstein, because I think as they face the salary cap stuff, Hartenstein is probably the guy that has the shakier, not only a shaky financial situation, but also he's probably the top priority to retain. But now you're talking at all times, you can have 2 7-footers on the floor with a combination of a Daymar, Isaiah Hartenstein, and
that's if
Chet
Hartenstein
Holmgren.
resigns. And then remember they got Thomas Sorber.
I love
From
Thomas
Georgetown.
Sorber.
He was hurt last season.
I know, it's the Thunder red shirt. He got it this past year, but you know, with the Grizzlies in this too, like Zach Edey, I think Zach Edey can hang with those guys for sure.
But can he do it by himself?
No.
Which is might be why the Grizzlies might need to take another big with pick 16.
That's right, pick 16 or pick 32, wherever they fall in there. But also, let's not forget, and I think if you're wanting to educate yourself on Cam Boozer, if you are a guy or a girl or a fan, whatever, who you don't know much about Cameron Boozer, and you're like, oh, how does he fit in the NBA? Go watch his highlights against Michigan, where he faced up and pretty much owned a Michigan front court that just had 3 guys picked into the top 12 with Morez Johnson, Daxter Lindenborg, Ade Mara. He was awesome. He showed the entire package of what he can be offensively, and how the thing that really just captivates me with Boozer is just he's a high-level problem solver. He knows how to solve problems on the basketball court. If a defense sends 2, he knows where to send the ball. He's great at identifying skip passes. He can get downhill. And, you know, this is a skill that, you know, I think he needs to work on when it comes to his finishing, but he likes the pump fake. He likes, when he drives, he likes to get guys up in the air, not just to draw fouls, but to also try to open up that finishing window to where he can get a more clear path for a layup. So, yeah, the Thunder's a handful for everybody.
Yeah.
And I do think the Grizzlies have equipped themselves to deal with the Oklahoma City Thunders, the San Antonio Spurs of the world that have a massive front court that is a lot to handle. Let's not forget San Antonio just went to the finals with Victor Wembanyama, 22-year-old, 7'5" phenom who can do just about anything on the basketball court. But
basically, we learning the land of the Giants is the way to go.
Yeah. Having 2 bigs in your front court, you're so back. If you're trying to go small ball, you're behind. So, yeah, I'm excited to see those battles, see those wars, because I think Cameron Boozer and Zach Edey's a front court, and also too, let's not forget, if you're expanding out the front court, you have Cedric Howard at the 3. He was one of the better rebounding non-bigs this past year. He had some nights where he had 10, 12, 15 boards. He's not afraid to get in and get his hands dirty either. So when you're talking about building around a 1 through 3, or, you know, however the positional definition may be, because Jalen Wells is more of the 2, or the 3, excuse me. He's more of the 3 because Coward has more of that ball handling, but defensively, Coward is more of the 3 and Wells more of the 2 because of who he guards. But you can really kind of build a big advantage on the glass, because there's one thing that I've learned over watching the NBA the last few years: the possessions game is massive. And it sounds like we're about to do something with Cameron Boozer here in the arena.
We're about to hear from Cam Boozer.
Yeah.
Hold on, if you can zoom in, Cam, on Cam.
Dedication that you had to talk about. Now that you guys have experienced the initial wave of being in the NBA at this point, what are your feelings right now? You know, what's kind of going through your mind about reaching this point?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it doesn't feel real. You know, when you dream something your whole life and you finally get there, I mean, it takes a moment for it to really sink in. But we're also excited, you know, to raise my parents and my brothers, you know, to share a moment with them. So we're super excited for sure.
When you talk about the next steps and you sort of putting this night in perspective, a lot of your coaches and your teammates have talked about how much you've worked for this. You've been a winner at every stage of your life. You're coming into an organization that's going to value winning, going to value teamwork. Why are those components important for you? Team building and obviously development.
Yeah, man, I think you play the game to win. That's what I've done at every level until we talk about, a little baby. And I hope to bring it to Memphis, I think we got a very young core. The future's really bright. I'm going to shock a lot of people this year, honestly. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
You had a chance just to kind of conceptualize what it might have been like to play with this guy right here, Cedric Howard, last year. He decided to come to the NBA, leave you hanging at Duke. Now you get a chance to play with him finally. What was that moment like? What do you sort of know about, him and what you can expect?
Yeah, I told him it was meant to be. He decided to leave me at Duke, but I followed him Memphis, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously had a great rookie season, and we're going to continue to build off that for sure.
All right, this program in Memphis is predicated on development. A lot of all-rookie team players that have come through this franchise. It's going to be about development and working hard. What can the fans get to know about you when it comes to working hard and that work commitment that it takes?
I've been living my whole life. You don't win by skipping steps or cheating the game. I've been someone who's been super dedicated and devoted to my craft and to my team. So I'm going to continue at the next level. We're going to win at the highest level, so it's going to be a lot of fun, like I said.
Okay, what kind of player, person, leader is the Memphis Grizzlies getting? What can you take these fans right here who are waiting to see you soon?
Hope I can take him a lot of wins, but I think he's getting a great guy who wants to put the team first and win, wants to be a great player, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to get down to the city and just keep building off this win right here.
Memphis certainly can't wait to get you down there from Cam Boozer and Michael Wallace. The Boozer family, welcome to Memphis. We look forward to calling you and good luck the rest of the night.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Well, there you have it, hearing from Memphis Grizzlies number 3 overall pick Cam Boozer, a winner. And he wants to bring more of that here to Memphis and get this franchise back to winning. I always said, Parker, I really like guys who have the genes of former athletes. That's why, like, even on the football side, I'm a big Shadur Sanders guy, because when you come from winning football, winning athletes, period, you kind of have it ingrained into your system how serious this is. Carlos Boozer was a hell of a player in the NBA, one of my favorites when he was on the Bulls. And Cam watched him growing up and was able to kind of take a lot from him as they're picking right now. Nate Ament is the guy for that pick is going to Milwaukee, obviously, in the Giannis trade. But getting back to Cam, I think because he comes from the Carlos Boozer tree, it's instilled in him that winning is the expectation. And playing at Duke, that point was beaten home under John Shire, who comes from the Coach K tree. So, what do you think about Cam Boozer and his ability and his persistence to really turn this stuff around? Especially, like I said, while you were gone, he has a chip on his shoulder. Cam Boozer felt that he was the best player in this draft. In his high school class with AJ and Darren, there were at times where guys were saying he was better than those guys. And it seemed like it was a lot of smut thrown on Cam Boozer. I don't really know why, but it seems that Cam is going to take that chip on his shoulder that maybe 5 years from now we're looking at he's the best player in his class.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing that happened with all that. He doesn't play with that flash, He doesn't have the back talk like AJ DeBosa or Darren Peterson.
He doesn't have aura.
He's the guy that you watch him and you're like, oh yeah, he's playing a pretty good game, and then you look up and he goes, oh wow, he has 25 points, 10, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists.
Efficient.
And then you win. He's just efficient. Like I said, basketball chameleon. You can put him in so many different roles, put him in so many different spots on the floor, and he's going to find a way to find the right bucket, not just for himself, but also for his teammates as well. And there's just that competitiveness. Look, you could look up that lasting moment of Duke. Blood on the jersey, torn up a little bit. His eye, he had like a fragile orbital.
Left it all out there.
Hey, look, Grizzly fans, you're probably thinking those are shades of Mike Conley.
Grit and grind.
The grit and grind. You're getting a grit and grind player with Cam Boozer, and I liked hearing on there. All of it was about winning winning. That's the expectation. With Cam Boozer, you're going to win. I'm excited to hear how the Grizzlies will build this team around Cam Boozer and get the grindhouse back rocking and get it back to its playoff glory.
The theme that you've kind of seen on the 24th floor lately when we've had guests is winning is an expectation. It's not optional. We've had Charles Huff on the show, Memphis Tigers football coach, and he knows about the pressures of winning. We had Hannah Hayden, the Memphis Tigers women's basketball coach, and she talks about winning, the expectation. And I've said it, Parker, it seems this city is starving for success because they want so badly to be back to the good days. Because especially when you hear the outside noise in the athletics world, sports, as I've always said, is the thing that kind of can unite us and bring us together. And I unfortunately wasn't here through the real peak of the Ja Jarrett and stuff. I was in Minnesota. So like I told a coworker,
so you're kind of here.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily the biggest Grizzlies fan because being as I worked in Minnesota before here during that playoff series where, I was covering the T-Wolves, wanting them to get past the Grizzlies, but that's neither here nor there. Being here in Memphis, I've grown to get close to the city, to the people, and I just realized how much they want to see a winner, whether it's the Grizzlies, whether it's the Tigers. So seeing that it seems like this city and the athletics world are bringing guys who want to restore Memphis to glory, I just like that, and I think the city can get behind that, because what do we always say about Memphis? Grit and grind. And Cam Boozer, we talk about aura. I thought he had aura with his drip he had on. He was suiting
He was like Braun in 03.
Yeah, all white at the Black Show. Word to Jay-Z. And so, Cameron Boozer, I'm really excited at what he's going to bring. As we're watching here at the NBA Draft Watch Party, you can obviously watch the NBA Draft right now on ABC 24. We've been doing a lot of talking. We're going to take a quick break. We've got about 3 more picks until we get to the Grizzlies. When we come back, we're going to kind of look at the board and see who could fall to the Grizzlies. But we're live here at the FedExForum, ABC 24. The 24th floor is back after this.
Trinidad Chandler getting his case approved back in February and March and all of that. That was the main key. That's what made this team a playoff team. Because if Trinidad Chambliss hadn't made it back for Ole Miss, Deuce Knight was going to be a good quarterback, but now you're talking about this Ole Miss team being a 20 to 25 level team. With Trinidad Chambliss, this is a national championship contender. And as long as you keep the Ferrari on the road, let Kewan Lacey do what he does, and with the defense coming back that's supposed to be really good, I think this team is going to be better than 2025.
I think the NBA is driven by really good wings. If you have a really good wing player, you have a higher ceiling to win it all compared to if you have a guard. Because think about it, for the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, they've been in the conference finals 2 years in a row. Might be 3 if they get past San Antonio. Yeah. And then, you obviously have Tatum and Brown. The Celtics won a championship. We know with the Durant, even though Steph Curry was the face of the Warriors team, once they got Durant was the best player of the team. You see Kawhi Leonard with the Spurs and the Raptors, and LeBron, obviously. Yeah. Wings really drive the NBA. Sure. And I think AJ DeBanza has the play where if you take a guy like him and he ends up reaching what he's supposed to be, you're standing at the top for a long time.
Obviously, the goal is to win, and if I don't do that, there'll be another head coach here doing your show. I get that, but with the understanding of not setting expectations too high, but also understanding that we are standing on fertile ground. There's a lot of resources here. There's a lot of support here, so we should expect victory. Yeah. Now, the reality of it is it comes down to execution, but we want to make sure that when the fans watch us play, they
Welcome back to the 24th floor. We're live here at the FedExForum for the NBA Draft Watch Party. The NBA Draft you could also watch on ABC 24, but you could also have some fun with us for a little bit of a watch along. As we are speaking right now, the Hornets are picking at 14, so we're about 2 picks away from the Grizzlies at pick 16. We plan to keep going until that Grizzlies second pick so that you get our full analysis and reaction to all of that. We'll see what the Hornets do real quick before we kind of talk about our BPA. Charlotte is going to go with Steinbach. You called it. So Hans Steinbach from Washington's taken. For a lot of people, he was the fourth best big available, right behind. I mean, if you had Boozer more, if it's like a front court player, it would go Boozer, Wilson, Mara, Steinbach. If you just went strictly off centers, then Steinbach was the second best center. I kind of like this for the Hornets. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird because they got Diabate. So, but you know, like we've been kind of saying in the show, like now the league is going big because Wemby. Because Wemby is coming, so now you got to have some bodies for that.
But it's also one of those things too. I said it before the break. Nothing matters more in the NBA right now than the possessions game. That's tied to rebounding. That's tied to generating steals. That's tied to time of possession, generating transition offense, getting into your sets quicker, and preventing the opposing team from getting into their sets quicker. Hannes Steinbach, best rebounder in the class, great hands. I think it's one of those things that for all 48 minutes, if you got to give Diabate a break, you go Steinbach, you're probably going to have the best rebounder on the floor at all times, 95% of the time. That's how I feel with Steinbach. I think he's incredibly skilled. I think his screening will be very good for LaMelo Ball, Compton Nimble, Brandon Miller. Yeah, I really like this pick. I think it's going to be a good pick for Charlotte. They've really emphasized the possessions game. I feel as well. I think Steinbach might have some more passing juice than what's been led to believe. He can shoot the ball a little bit. Now, he's in a weird spot because he can't protect the rim that well, but he also is not the fastest. So all right, what is he defensively? Is he a 4? Is he a 5? Is he both in the wrong way? I don't know. But I do think that this is a great pick for the Charlotte Hornets. As we were talking about during the break, looking at best player available on both the ESPN ticker, but also in my NBA draft guide. I had Steinbach as the best player available. I think this would be a good pick for them.
So now we're about one pick away before it's the Grizzlies up again. As you look at your board, you talk about the ESPN board, and then you talk about your personal board. What are you kind of feeling now where Memphis probably goes, looking at the board that's available? Because now obviously Kleiman wants to let it play out because maybe he would have traded up by now, or maybe he kind of want to hold his assets. I guess it wasn't a guy that he felt really was worth trading up for. So now, who do you think Kleiman probably could be eyeing at 16? I personally want to go out on the record and say I still think that my guy Christian Anderson from Texas Tech is the pick. So you heard it here. All right, Christian Anderson, who do you got?
Look, let's also point out The Athletic, same team with The Athletic, and Jimmy Woo with ESPN, they both mocked Christian Anderson to the Grizzlies at 16 because they decided the potential need for point guard, depending on what happens with John Morant. But also, too, I look at Anderson in the context of the Grizzlies scheme, a lot of pick and roll. He's arguably one of the better pick and roll guards in the class. He's a guy that can come off screens and he can shoot with distance, great passer, has these gears to him. Now, for me, I'm like, okay, is he a guy that could be your starting point guard? I don't know. I think he could be a Schroeder kind of point guard where some teams he could start, some teams he cannot. But look, this is the guy as a sophomore, about 17 points a game, 7 assists per game, 3-level scorer out of the pick and roll, high-level passer. I could see it. My pick would be Dalen Swain out of Texas.
I loved him in the tournament.
6'8" wing. Yeah. He could get to the basket at will. He doesn't need a screen to get downhill. He has a nice crossover, knows how to identify those Gortat seals, so when his big ceiling, he's driving right to it for a layup. He's a gazelle in transition. The defense kind of fell off a little bit of Texas, but still a guy that can generate stops, he can generate steals, generate blocks, add to the passing lanes, and when he's locked in and engaged, he can defend at a very high level. He can really get into his opponent's jersey. But I also look at him and say, okay, at the very least, you're getting a wing who will be a guy you can play in the playoffs because he's a physical defender, he rebounds, and he puts pressure on the rim. The shot may or may not be there, but it has improved every year. He went from about 24, 25% at Xavier his sophomore year to shooting 35% from 3 at Texas. Shoots 80% of the free throw line. Who knows? It might be there. And if the shot's there, with the creation skill, with the defense, look, what did the Knicks, they built around Brunson. with rangy, athletic wings that can take on different roles. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart. I think Jalen Swain's upside is fitting the mold of those New York point guards. So if he's on the board at 16, that would be my pick.
I want to kind of connect the tissue of what we've been kind of talking about here. What's been the thing? We've been talking about what it takes to win. Earlier I said that we kind of got to lean into the youth. Seeing as OKC and San Antonio are probably going to run the West for the foreseeable future, and they're built off of youth. We've talked about the bigs with Wemby, and now with OKC with Nera and Holmgren, and now with Charlotte getting Steinbeck and Diabate. And hopefully, we know, like I said, the Grizzlies got Edie. Boozer has some size with him. But kind of like you said, I think you hit on a good point about wings. Because to me, at the end of the day, like your swing, if you have a really good swingman, I would rather have that be my centerpiece. With all due respect to Jalen Brunson, I want my best player on the championship team to be a swingman because of that versatility, to be able to guard and score from multiple positions and know you can kind of get to the rack. So Swain, I see that because I watched in the tournament his performance against BYU, his performance against Gonzaga, his performance against Purdue, and I really became a huge fan of this guy. This guy found a multitude of ways to score. And he's a guy who, I talked to one of my friends who's a big Texas fan, I was like, he could be one of those hidden gems where we look at like a late round steal if he goes to the right system. Like we have said several times on this program, Zach Kleiman has a really good eye for talent, for young talent. We saw what he did, finding Jalen Wells and what Jalen Wells has been. Now, obviously, Jalen had a little bit of a regression this year, but still, he's somebody who's part of that young core. Cedric Howard, your guy. If you could add a Dylan Swain to that group, and with Gigi Jackson, who I'm a big fan of, and I've talked about on this program, maybe Swain could end up emerging as one of those underrated guys, kind of like what we saw about OG Anunoby on the Mikal Bridges.
And also, one thing to think about too, the Grizzlies have been seeking wing depth. You can tell since Zach Kleiman built this team, they've been searching for wing depth. Whether John Morant, Denson, trying to build around that. You had Dylan Brooks, Justice Winslow when they took a swing on. They took a swings on Zaire Williams in the 2022 draft. Jake Moravia, David Roddy, 2023 draft. Gigi Jackson. And even then, I've seen just the stuff they've done on the margins, getting Jalen Wells, finding Omax Prosper, and then making the big play to go get Cedric Howard in last year's draft. I really think that they get Daniel Swain, they could walk into a very promising wing room. Now, I still would like a veteran in there as well, just to kind of provide some stability around that core of Boozer, Edie, and Coward. But if you walk in and you have, and we're about to see the Chicago Bulls pick, and it's going to see who's on the board. So let's see.
Look, right as we call him, Swain is taken by Chicago.
There we go. All right, so yeah. Do we just want to talk about guys that can be on their play for 16?
I mean, I'm surprised that LeBaron Philon is still on the board.
There's LeBaron Philon, point guard out of Alabama.
That probably would be my pick, to be honest.
I mean, right now, best player available. He is the best player available on my board. Christian Anderson, we just talked about.
Carm Lopez, you're not high on him.
I'm not that high on Carm Lopez. I think he's fine, physical defender. I think he has a little bit of a ways to go. But again, he's a guy that I've also seen play a role on a professional team. That means something to me in a scheme there. Bennett Sturts out of Iowa.
Yes.
He was the system.
I really like him.
He was the system in Iowa.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated about how he can play how he can be and how efficient he can be when he doesn't have the responsibility of an entire system on him. And he can be a complimentary guy next to Cameron Boozer. He can learn from Ty Jerome, compliment Cedric Howard, Zach Edey. I would love that. Boozer, Edey, pick and roll. Boozer comes off of it. Bennett searches on the weak side. He either sprays it, attack and close out, and guess what happens when you attack and close out? Shifts the defense. It's either going to be a bucket at the rim or one more pass. I would love Bennett Sturts, Christian Anderson, Baron Philon, those are good names. Maybe more of an upside swing. Becca Okori, another guard in that group.
Yeah, I'm a big Okori guy.
Can touch the paint whenever he wants. Maybe a better shooter than Given, but also too, I want to see how the defense looks. I want to see how he looks like when he's not having the ball in his hands all the time. Cameron Carr, he was the draft combine standout. has a pterodactyl-like wingspan, shoots a lot of threes, makes it at a pretty good clip at 37%, but also to a guy that can soar to the basket, not afraid to put a defender in the basket with his dunking abilities. But yeah, how the board laid out, pretty good. We'll see how it goes. But the Grizzlies are in a spot where they can add, if they want, they can add a guy that could be in the conversation, be a point guard of the future, or they can continue to add depth on the wings or in the front court, however they best see fit.
Well, the Grizzlies are on the clock. We're going to sneak in hopefully one final break. Hopefully right when we come back that we will have the pick in and we will react and wrap up what's been a long watch party here. We're live at the FedExForum. We're back with the 24th floor after this. What do you think people don't realize about this league?
A lot of people still don't know it's here. We're going into our 12th season, so we've been doing this 7 years now. And a lot of people still don't know that it's here in Memphis and come out and watch the games.
And the home base is here in Memphis. Like everything originated here in the 901. It's not like you was somewhere else and then you came and expanded to Memphis. Everything started in the 901.
Everything was here. 2019 is when we started.
So who's in the league? Like because that would kind of be the question, right? Like people go watch people they know, people they're familiar with, people maybe they saw in high school or college.
Well, the ones that started with me, I retired them last year. Ashley Shields was probably the most notable name. She played in the WNBA, WNBA champion. But we had a lot of players that started with us our first season that were high talent WNBA Division I players. We put them in our first ever Hall of Fame last year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like my peers and everybody from a mass majority of people didn't believe that it was a world outside of Horn Lake, Mississippi, outside of Tunica, Mississippi, that they can do whatever they want and their wildest dream can come true. So that's the reason I try my best day in and day out to inspire the kids that they can do whatever, the next generation, that they can do whatever, and not even just the next generation, but anybody, the grown people too, they can do whatever. It's not too late. It's just as long as you put in the work, you got the right mindset with it. Yeah.
How's it been talking to some of the kids and everything? It seems like we got a good number. We got like 200 kids behind us and everything. So how's it been?
It's always fun talking to the kids. If I get through to one of them, then I got through to enough.
The stuff with Garen Peterson, even before his Kansas days, he was an electrifying high school player, just capable of getting to his spots.
Welcome back to the 24th floor. We're live here at the FedExForum for the 2026 NBA Draft Watch Party. We hope that you're also watching the draft right here on ABC 24. We got a race against the clock. In less than 10 minutes, we obviously have CW30 news at 9, and then the Grizzlies are on the clock. Allegedly, the pick is in. As soon as the Grizzlies make the pick, we will listen, we will react, and we'll get out of here because it's been a marathon, Parker. We have been talking forever, man. But I could talk basketball for you all day long.
Yeah, I swear, dude. But same here, man. I could talk basketball all day long. I could talk the NBA draft all day long. But yeah, Grizzlies are in. I'm excited to see where they go. We talked about it a little bit before the break, but everybody in mock drafts has been slotting point guard here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's...
I had Christian Anderson, but I did not expect LeBron and Fallon to still be on the board. So I would pivot to Fallon, but if they take Christian Anderson,
Fallon would ring. I mean, Fallon, he was probably the second best guard in the SEC behind Darius Acuff.
Yeah. 3-level
scorer, cold-blooded scorer, has to add some weight, but I think he's a guy that could be a sneaky upside play and a guy that could... I actually had him ahead of Michael Brown.
Wow.
Here we go.
Pick is in. We're going to sit here and react to it. We're waiting. The anticipation. The suspense. Come on, Mr. Silva.
With the 16th pick in the 2026 NBA Draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Bennett
Sturts. It's the 16th pick of the Memphis Grizzlies. I am a huge fan of Sturts. I didn't see this pick coming, but I'm not mad.
Hey, Bennett Sturts, let's get the elevator pitch. This dude was the system wherever he went. When he was playing JUCO, when he played for Ben McCollum at Drake, when he transferred with him to Iowa, this dude ran the entire system. He played over almost 95% of his minutes in back-to-back seasons. He averaged 40.3 minutes per game in the Big Ten. And guess what? Guess what is going to happen now? He's going to go to a place in Memphis where he won't have so much offensive responsibility, and we could maybe see another gear to his game. He shoots at over 60% for the field in the half court. Shoots 49% on, or 45% on catch and shoot threes. He is a very smart basketball player that can play within interactions, can play on and off the ball. He's in constant motion as well. Iowa, and I'm not giving this as a comparison by any means, but Ben McCollum used him like Steph Curry with the amount of times they had him in motion, playing off ball screens, making quick decisions. Look, I don't think there was a bad option for the Memphis Grizzlies here at 16 with Phylon, with O'Gordy, with Anderson, but they got Ben Sturtz, and I really think that the Memphis Grizzlies, what they did in this draft with Camden Boozer and with Bennett Sturtz, they really doubled down on basketball IQ with Bennett Sturtz, high IQ playmaker. Now I'm very interested to see how the backcourt's going to settle for Memphis. We talked about the John Morant rumors, but look, there's now Bennett Sturtz, Ty Jerome, Walter Clayton Jr., Cam Spencer, Scotty David Jr., and even Javon Small on a two-way contract. It wouldn't be shocking if we see some movement, some shuffling in the guard rotation to kind of allow the roster to make more sense. But good pick here from Zach Kleiman to go Bennett Sturtz.
What a night it's been here at the draft party. We've been going on for a marathon. We are running out of time. People are fouling out. Thank you for joining us live here at the FedExForum. I'm Richard Denson with my guy Parker Fleming. Check out his great work at Substack, but we will see you next time. Thank you, and go Grizz.